Hello and welcome. Today we've got Meghan Walsh, the daughter of John Walsh, who is the host for 25 years of America's Most Wanted. We have the lawyer Hollis Mandel, and we've got her team, a legal team, Christy Tasker. And today we are going to be discussing how Meghan's four children were taken away, we believe illegally, by CPS, which we're going to go into. There's three cases, three trials that are, currently going right now. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasfeniarmin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and the guests can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Meghan Walsh and Hollis and Christy, thank you for joining me, all of you. How are you and what have you been up to? We'll go with Meghan first.
Thanks for having me back, Nicholas. It's nice to see you, and thank you everyone for joining in and giving us your time today. Of course, we are still in the fight, and it's getting down to the wire here, and more has happened. So we're very thankful to be able to be here and give updates and just let people know what's going on, not only with my case, but as we see this happening across the country and even globe.
Absolutely. It's an absolute disaster with what's going on. I'm very, very sorry to hear that. I shared a video of the sheriffs outside talking to you from the window. I shared that. Penny L.A. Shepherd sent it to me, and I shared it on Telegram. And I shared it everywhere as much as I can to get the word out there. It's absolutely terrible with what's going on. So, I'm really, really feel terrible about what's going on. So we've got Hollis here, who is your lawyer, and we've got Christy. Now, why don't I sit back and Christy, if you can pull up the presentation and you can explain to me for the first time with the viewers, with everything that's gone on, and we can then go ahead with some questions and answers. How does that sound?
Great. Christy?
Christy, are you there? Christy, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry about that, Nicholas. I was trying to pull up the presentation. I'm having a little bit of difficulty right now. So I would like Meghan to go into talking a little bit about her background. And as she's talking about her background, I'm going to pull up some of the photographs and information that she's discussing as she goes through with the background. She's going to tell you, all about her parents and, her life and how it kind of started out. And the restraining orders that her parents, have even filed against each other, because it's really quite alarming when you start to read the allegations that are up against Meghan. As a mother, I was absolutely in tears, crying when I read the allegations, because it could be any of us here in America or abroad. So Meghan's story, even though she's been in the spotlight with presidents and very high influential people, for her to even stand up against these people is a really big deal. And we know a lot, that's gone on. We really need to make sure that we are, just paying attention to what she's saying here today, Nicholas. That is super important. And while she's speaking, I'm going to be trying to bring up the presentation, Meghan.
Absolutely. I just want to let Meghan know that when you do explaining this, please do explain it in a manner where, people who are watching for the first time will understand from the beginning with your position and where we're going to go with this. And of course, we need this out there. We want to expose this, and we want to bring these, these corrupt people right down and restore humanity. So please, Meghan, thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. And for everyone watching, it is a lot. And I understand what we're saying and what we're laying on the people here, and it is a lot. So of course I'm going to do the best that I can to start from the beginning, but not take up too much time, of course. Obviously, again, people know me from being the daughter of John Walsh, who was the host of a show called America's Most Wanted here in the US. It was actually a copy of a show called Crime Watch UK that started in the UK before America's Most Wanted did. People saw me, like Christy said, with, presidents on Capitol Hill, just a couple months old in the Rose Garden with Reagan, and then thereafter many times with him and other presidents on Capitol Hill lobbying for legislation. And then, obviously in media and Hollywood and even music and fashion when I went on to do my own work later in life in college and thereafter. So, everyone did see this life of mine and this lifestyle that we see with a lot of celebrities and their children. And unfortunately, that wasn't exactly the reality of the situation behind closed doors. We're seeing a lot of an issue of public persona versus, private lives. And, there were good times. I'm very, very hurt by what my parents have decided to do and the way that they have decided to handle this. But the truth of the matter still stands. And that was a big thing here, was me starting to speak out about the abuse and things that were going on and how it was affecting my children and my family now. If people go back, they know my brother and my father, mainly from my brother, which is Adam Walsh, the little boy that was kidnapped from the Sears department store in Hollywood, Florida in 1981. And then my father went on to, again, do the shows and things like that. But people don't really look at what was going on at the time within my parents and what happened from there, what trauma can do, like losing a child to parents, what that can do to them. And the fact that my parents never sought therapy for themselves. They thought they sought therapy later for all of us. They shot me since I was 8, but they never really truly got therapy and help for themselves. They were thrust into the limelight. They were thrust into, this make it so that he didn't die in vain kind of a thing, and get on TV and make this message and platform. So that's what I think people don't really realize. There was a lot of infidelity that was even put out to the public years ago with my father's cover on the Globe. They were in a divorce proceeding for over 10 years, where they even had restraining orders involved in that. My dad has gone to rehab for alcoholism. So, I'm just trying to give everyone an idea of, what really went on. And these are real issues that many of us face, but in celebrity families, this is very, very prevalent, unfortunately. And in mine, it was, at least. And I know others that it is. So I can humbly speak to that. As I got older and whatnot, my parents were very controlling. Again, never getting help for losing a child. They were very controlling. When I was young, that was understandable. We were young, they had lost a child. But as I got older, it became very Hegelian dialect, if you will, problem, reaction, solution. I loved my parents. I felt that, I was very blessed to have a wealthy family that supported me in my times of trouble, or with different individuals like the fathers of my children and things like that. I thought that that's what family did. And I was very blessed to have one that had means to do so. And again, that's another reason why I'm very hurt, because of the level of trust being broken here. And I mean, not to mention everything else that's horrifically happening, but really to focus on the level of trust, like taking my home, like Christy mentioned. They've taken my home in this. They served me with a family court case lawsuit. Then, a week later, they filed to take my home. And then, 2 weeks later or so, took my children. Then a month later, had me falsely arrested. And then the trial for my children. So not to skip around, but that's how it's kind of, cascaded, if you will, up to the current. So growing up, they were very controlling. I would be threatened that, if I, didn't do what they wanted, there would be certain circumstances, things would be taken away. And I was dependent on that. At a certain point, it got too much when I started seeing it affect my daughter and my family. And and I had a therapist at the time. I'm actually a trained therapist, as well, certified, and specializing in trauma, due to my experiences and wanting to help others. Before all of this, I was working and developing a family community learning farm for the community. We were doing story time and music together classes for the children. I had chickens and goats and hens, and we were making bread together, things like that. I was also in school for functional nutrition. So I believe in integrative health and functional nutrition. I think it's an amazing thing that people should really start learning about for their own health and their own benefits, especially for their family. And that's something that I practice within my family as well. And out in the community, we were at church and having play dates and having people to the farm, providing a space during a pandemic where people were stuck in their homes and experiencing hardships. And I was actually able to provide, a space and come together with other colleagues, women I had known from high school and things like that, prior to all of a sudden this happening in our lives. So, April 1st really changed things. And due to that controlling nature that I had always grown up with, I started, saying, and we've talked about this on prior shows, Nicholas, that, kind of assault on Thanksgiving. And, I went up to my parents' home for Thanksgiving. And I believe it was Thanksgiving 2020. And they started this whole script and saying that I, was crazy and I needed help. And I said, I don't consent to this. And my mother proceeded, after I went to get the phone, she proceeded to pull me by my hair with my baby in my arms. She bloodied my nose, where actually, for the audience that isn't aware, I am healing basal cell carcinoma with Rick Simpson oil. It is a natural prescription and approved treatment for basal cell as a natural treatment for it. That has also been used against me in allegations. So I was doing that. I was living a different lifestyle. My mother started attacking me when I took the phone. She pulled my hair, bloodied my face, and continued to bite me on my arm with my baby again in my arms, while they were then holding my daughter hostage and telling me I could leave with my two boys if I left my daughter, which seemed to be a theme. They really target my daughter and really have used her even in this case, and with her father. He's very much a part of this case and part of this injury being done to our family. And from the perspective of my children, that's all I can think about, Nicholas. And I can't, what they're being put through, never mind me and all of us fighting, but what they're being put through is just ungodly.
So what do you think the core reason is? Why, can you explain to the viewers, why do you believe that your parents are doing this? Why are they being so malicious? I mean, they are the grandparents to these wonderful little children, and they are removing them, taking them away from their mother. So what is it? Why are they saying that you're crazy? What's their agenda? What are they afraid of, that they have to gaslight and say you're crazy to do that to you?
Well, Nicholas, I think that there's multiple reasons, unfortunately. I wish it was that simple to just give you one answer, but I think this has a lot to do with what they have a track record, we're finding out, unfortunately, of doing, is retaliating to make up for, anyone that knows any truth or is speaking out about the reality of who they are or who they were when Adam was alive, who they are now, and their reputation. That's very important to them, especially with the work that my father does and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I also think that it has to do with me speaking out about that from my own experience and abuse with them, but also mainly cutting them off. I was, at the advice of my therapist at the time, I had gone no contact. That's what we know in narcissistic abuse. My parents had been told many times that, I had a right to medical freedom, as well as the fact that these were not their children. They couldn't vicariously live their days that they didn't get with Adam or raising children because my father was on the road, that, these were not their children and that they didn't have right to do this. they also have no grandparents' rights in Florida. There are no grandparents' rights. So that voids that out for them, as well as guardianship. I think the main bulk here, Nicholas, is that they are going for a guardianship, which the way that they are doing this would be guardianship fraud, and to very much hurt and break me into a conservatorship, excuse me. So there's financial intentions here. There is abusive intentions. I mean, I was to a point where they weren't unable to any longer, abuse us. They weren't able to abuse us any longer. And so they got the system to do it. This is projection and unfortunately abuse and for money.
Absolutely.
Using children, exploiting children.
Meghan, why don't you, as Christy's going through these photographs and presentation, why don't you talk us through the photos and of course fill us in with a presentation?
Yeah, I will to the best of my ability. Thank you, Nicholas. The current slide that's up is obviously the former President Bush with my father and mother on the left of the screen, which he ties back to Henry Lee Lucas in Texas, and then to Otis Toole, who was the quote unquote proclaimed murderer of my brother after his death. So then next to that photo is my father with Anthony Bourdain and what's his name? It's leaving me right now, from CNN. The guy on the other side. There you go. Yeah. And so that's my father out in the scene and how they do their events, and with the late Anthony Bourdain. Which,
and this would have been Meghan. This would have been at the CNN building, probably. That's a Turner Broadcasting building in Atlanta, Georgia. This is the Turner Upfront 2016 reception at the CNN Center. I'm going to go backwards a little bit just to kind of give an idea too, that John Walsh is connected to pretty much every president we've had for the last 30 years, really ever since Meghan's been born. That's the whole purpose of this, Nick, to be honest with you, is to show, what presidents he's connected with. He's even connected with Hunter Biden, the current president's son. This is Meghan with former First Lady Nancy Reagan, somewhere in a very odd photo, if you ask me. It looks like maybe she's on a carpet with 3 people kind of standing behind them with cinder blocks as the wall finish, which is quite odd in my opinion.
That was also Sally Struthers as well, who has a story of her own within the movement. So that was Sally Struthers, and that actually I have another photograph of myself in the same dress from that day earlier upstairs in the White House.
Yeah, and this is, this is really how Meghan grew up. But that's not what's really important. What's really important is, Nicholas, I don't know if I have properly made it so that you can you hear the audio of this video, guys? When it started to play? Okay.
Yes, we heard it just now.
This is very, very important. The county where Meghan's children were taken is called Indian River County. And this is a campaign video where John Walsh, Meghan's father, is campaigning for Eric Flowers for sheriff. He campaigned for him, and I'm just going to let everybody hear it in their own words.
This is our name.
I'm John Walsh. You may know me for the 25 years that I produced and hosted America's Most Wanted. I chase fugitives all over the world and work with every kind of cop. Interpol, Scotland Yard, FBI, Marshals, you name it. I think I know a good cop when I see one. This guy's a good cop, trained at the FBI headquarters in Virginia, trained at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children on how to keep kids safe online. He knows this county, he loves this county, and I'm voting for Eric Flowers.
Vote for me, August 18th, 2020.
So, Meghan, well, I'm showing these slides so that the public can see. These are just, this is directly from Sheriff Eric Flowers' Facebook page or Twitter feed. actually, this is from his Twitter feed. And the left one is a meme that someone had put up regarding, him being a puppet and the puppet master. Whether he is or not, we don't really know. But what we do know is that Meghan has openly even spoken out. Meghan, can you tell about your speaking out with your children for other families that before you even started having issues with CPS yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Christy. I also wanted to mention that campaign spot was also filmed on our ranch, our family ranch as well. And you see them in the old boys prison, I guess, or home there that they were doing the filming where he's having his nose powdered and things. Yeah, there you see that. And I'm sorry, Christy, what did you say from there? I'm sorry, honey.
No, just saying, can you give a background for your standing out for CPS for other victims before you even became a victim yourself,
Right.
about other families that were having issues in the same county or with CPS in general?
Yeah, thank you. I was an advocate. Nicholas is aware of that as well. And many are aware of the fact that I was an advocate fighting against corruption within CPS and the family court system. I had held bridge walks and protests. My children had been there. I've court watched. I've been a national court watcher in other states now that we have Zoom to be able to watch other hearings and other families going through this, to be able to write affidavits and things after that if there was an issue, which is something that I highly suggest to everyone that wants to get involved and try to put on more eyes and ears on this system and CPS. You can get your judge's local link and court watch. But I was a court watcher. I was speaking out. I was, between different organizations and getting involved prior to this happening, as well as within my community. I was very much doing that.
So, so that you were, before you even knew it, I'm not going to play this video because it's a little lengthy, but I will publish it, Nicholas, so that if you want to share it on your stream, just so people can hear, the original narrative of what happened to Adam that a lot of people disagree with to this day, and about, how much funding, the organizations have got. We won't go into all of that. John Walsh.
Christy, they also discuss in that video with Obama, they also discuss my father's relationship with current President Biden as well for the viewers.
Right. Yes. So I'm not going to play that because it's about a 4-minute clip. I don't want to waste everyone's time if they're not interested in hearing it. But I assume, Nicholas, you'll be able to share it on your Telegram, I hope.
Yes.
Provide you the link and everything. Okay. And again, about gun control, this is a little more than about Meghan speaking up, and because I want to make sure that we get into the allegations, that there are a lot of children that happen to go missing in Indian River County. It's almost awkward that it's even found on social media, where there was an 18-month-old that was found dead in Indian River County. And for those people who don't know, it's often a situation where, when a body is found in a particular county, the sheriff of that county in the United States has precedence over the investigation. So I think that's really important for people to know and understand where we're at, and why Meghan is so concerned about her children and who they're really with right now. So Meghan, I'll just let you go in. I mean, this was a globe issue where John was busted for his shameless cheating and sex marathons days after he's on television talking about how great his wife is and their son. Obviously none of this was mentioned in that. This was in April, I believe it's April 2001. Yeah, 2001, 17th Globe issue. And, just the amount of discrepancy that people have with the Adam case. Meghan, can you talk a little bit about your parents' divorce, like even, the situation with the sexcapades and the divorce situation?
Yeah, absolutely. one day we were kept home from school and told, taken outside one at a time and told, by my father that there was going to be a cover put out and that he had cheated on my mother. And all this, which I was 15 years old and I already had a feeling that that was going on. Our kids know more than we think they do, and they do grow up. But yes, they went through divorce proceedings from there. It was very messy. Again, I grew up with bodyguards and aliases and telling people I lived in different places than where I did, and things like that. So then it went into cheating and alcoholism, sex addiction. People have also said, oh, that's a Globe cover. Well, I lived it. He's also on Larry King on my 21st birthday live saying that he was an addict and a sex addict, and he apologized to my family and my mother. And then from there, he went to Passages Malibu rehab and for, I guess, a week or so for an outpatient program, never again really getting help or therapy or treatment. I have not seen him have a drink in 20 years, but he is showing signs of senility and different issues, unfortunately. But yes, they had a very ugly divorce proceeding for 10 years with restraining orders involved and very ugly things going on in it. And suddenly one day they had reconciled and they were back together, and they've lived separately in the same house since then.
And just so everyone knows, when you're married in the United States, you do not have to testify against each other. That's not saying that there was a reason. That's just fact. That is part of what happens. But I think what's really important is for everyone to understand what is really against Meghan right now, the allegations actually against her. Meghan, can you talk a little bit about the first father, your oldest child's father?
Yeah, my oldest daughter turned 9. She was 8 when this first started. And her father was someone locally that I had known his family growing up. And my mother had gone on a tyrant years ago and I needed a place to stay for a little bit. And his sister told me he was, his home was in foreclosure. I'm sure you could stay there in the extra room and no big deal. He had been married for 12 years and his ex-wife, he had gotten divorced and he had 2 daughters. His ex-wife was actually, from what he told me, was taking money to be a surrogate for other people. And so I asked him if he would be interested. I was doing fashion and traveling and, moving back from India and things like that at the time. That was my lifestyle. And I asked him if he would be interested in helping me have a child where he, would be involved later in her life. And he agreed to that. And we were successful in getting pregnant. I moved out right after that. We have been in the same town, blocks away from each other for 9 years. He sees my cousin through their work at least once a year and has, gone up to her, said, how's Ava? I think about her. Do you think I should contact Meghan's parents? Things like that, where she said, why don't you contact Meghan? Which leads me to this point. He had 9 years to just call me and say, I know that we had started this under a certain premise, but I think about my daughter and I want to get to know my daughter. Is there any way that we could, in a healthy, positive way, do that? He could have absolutely done that. And I would have, especially with everything going on with my family, I would have absolutely been open to that. But instead, he's decided, when the whole town knows who her father is, has known, just like he has known, they came to court and, thinking this was a big surprise ambush, saying that he had no idea that she was even his. And that they looked at a picture. My parents looked at a picture and saw her blue eyes and realized that he must be the father. They don't know these people. They don't hang out with these people. They all know. And his mother even wrote me an email right after I got pregnant because she was very upset that her son had, agreed, to not be in her life until later. And I've honored him. The last I'll say about that is that I have honored him this entire time. No one has asked my daughter. They just say that he came out of the blue. They are choking up and crying in court. This act is incredible. I will tell you that much, everybody. But he just showed up and said, I didn't have any idea, and now I want custody, and I want you to get a life insurance policy and put my name on it.
Wow. So just to be clear, after 9 years.
9. Also 9 years of no issues or reports or rumors or anything of any issues with my children or I. Again, ironically, I'm not a saint, but the exact opposite with us being in the community and in church and helping families. That's what I do.
Interesting. So should we move forward to the next slide?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to make sure that people read this slide, Nicholas, because there's some words we can't say. So if everybody can kind of zoom in to read the number 12 and 12, 13, and 14, because it basically involves the med freedom. Let's just say that every parent should have the right to make. And then, the next one is that, Meghan, you have deadbolts on your doors. You don't want the public to view your children. These are allegations, everyone. I mean, I just encourage you to really read these allegations, because when I first read them, I was absolutely heartbroken. I felt like I was reading something that wasn't even real, that someone had made up. You keep your doors locked in your room all day to smoke marijuana. As far as I've known you, Meghan, which has not been a long, long time, you've managed to show up for everything, and be, what I would presume would be a good mother. For no apparent reason, you've refused to seek employment. Is that the truth?
No, I was developing a family farm, and I was in school, and I was a full-time mother. So, and out in the community. So I don't know how I'd lock myself away all day.
So, and then and then they say that you had a tendency to hoard things. Now, God, these are all allegations for taking away children. Meghan,
yeah, and we provided photos of the home. I was on social media every day with my children and my home in the background. We were in a pandemic, so it was my home. And I mean, the irony, I had whole Montessori shelves for my children, emotional charts in the hallways, a learning room for my daughter. So we had never been thriving more.
For no reason, you're accused that the only food the minor child is provided is by the maternal grandparents. When the respondent is angry at the maternal grandparents, she allows the food to rot.
Do we believe that? I would take my children every Saturday to the farmer's market for fresh produce. We also had a nanny that was a chef and would cook, so I don't know how that's possible. And she only worked during the week for the beginning meals like anyone else's nanny would while I was in school and working. So I'm not sure. I love to cook, and we would even bake bread for the community. I don't know. It's like they took small things that they didn't like and agree with, and that had been issues between us in the differences in raising children, and they demonized it to the furthest extent. I don't know what else to say, honestly.
So basically, they're also trying to say, Meghan, that you are basically you're suffering severely from untreated mental health problems.
Yes. Well, my father also testifies, Your Honor, we have tried since she was little. We've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a diagnosis, and we've still been unable to.
Okay, and then this is the real tell for me when I was reading through Meghan's documents. First they come after her for the older child, and based on that parent who hadn't seen the child in 9 years. Then the next thing is the petition for the sale of Meghan's home, which is basically saying the reason that your father petitioned to sell the home is because he was 50% owner. Is that right?
Yeah, and I just want to say one last thing on Nicholas, before we move on. I really don't understand how a person can actually sign under oath these affidavits and start this lawsuit when you have no knowledge of the family, of the situation, of me and my children whatsoever. I mean, even in the past 9 years, never mind ever. So I just wanted to point that out. We all think that's very, very interesting, to say the least. So I'm sorry, Christy, go ahead.
No. Go. Yeah. I mean, please feel free to interject at any time, because I mean, I just want to make sure that the public is really very well aware of what they're alleging against you and really what happened and in the order of things that are happening, because I feel until now that has not really been very clear as to how everything has happened. So basically, your father had petitioned for the sale of your home that you had with your children because you repeatedly refused to maintain a stable and healthy lifestyle for yourself and your children. So as a result, he seeks the partition, which means would have been his half of the property. The property is not susceptible to physical division, and it is the best interest that the properties be sold at a public or private sale. So basically, he sold your home out from underneath you because I imagine that he knew that you did not have the way or means to buy your 50% out.
Correct. And also requested in the court documents itself, in quotes, that my half be held in escrow until after the DCF case is over, so that I would remain indigent and homeless and not be able to get on my feet. Yeah.
Because DCF will not allow you to have your children back unless you can provide them a home.
Yeah.
And then there's the financial aspect that if they're going to hold your funds in escrow, can you confirm, has this house sold?
Oh, yes, they sold every judgment. I did have an attorney at the time, and he could not believe this case. He was so annoyed with it. He recused himself from it. He said their lawyer is an absolute sham. He's acting like a concierge lawyer, and they sold it out from under me in 2 seconds. They had these magistrate or real estate, mediators that just harassed me. They did emergency orders that were automatically granted and heard. And they even had me have to move out like a weekend before I was even supposed to, and asked and tried to require my lawyer to drive from across the state to be there for the movers. I mean, it was very bizarre. They accused me of renting the home out and named a woman, saying that she was renting the home from me and living there, which was a friend of mine that came to visit and help with some of the stuff. And obviously they had to run her plates or something illegally to find out who she was. But these accusations that were just out of the blue to hurry up and get the house sold and me be forced out of it with no place to go.
So, and then obviously your father had already, or someone had paid your respondent, which is they'd already paid the taxes and insurance on it. They requested that they be reimbursed from your share, which you still have not gotten to date. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. They're trying to drain all of my side as well with any expense that they can come up with. I mean, all my parents, this is narcissistic abuse, and these allegations are projection of everything that I experienced growing up that they have done in one way or another for the most part. So unfortunately, this is what's going on, and they've taken all of that and done it in this manner.
So I'm not going to play the video, Nick. This is the one that you had mentioned.
Are you sure you don't want to play it for the viewers, or?
Yeah, it depends on what you want. I mean,
You can play a few minutes. I mean, you can play
Okay.
like 60 seconds of it.
JLR.
Fast forward that part.
I'm going to fast forward. Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah, just
fast
so we can
forward
get an idea.
to show that here's the baby, okay?
Jesus. They can come up with this stuff. This is not Jesus.
This order, like I just tried to explain to you, I understand your frustration. I understand your hurt.
No,
my child. I'm protecting my child. And I have the documentation. I understand that there's an order, but if I have the documentation, and I was never notified by my lawyer this morning, nothing. And she should have contacted me and asked me for the documentation. I have it. So that should null and void. Jennifer Hickson. Yeah, I tried to text her. Yeah, I tried to text her, and I want to do this right, sir. I'm not trying
I know you do the work, but here's the problem. I mean, it's, again, at some point, I was just told you're
Yes.
this morning for that.
and did not notify me before and did not get any of my evidence.
That's right now.
It's in the back. I can get it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I can show you my text messaging her. Everything, sir. I'm not lying here.
No, I'm not saying you are, man, at all.
I'm a very good person and I'm an amazing mother.
Nicholas, I'm going to stop it here because I don't think Megan's going to be able to get through the rest of the interview.
Yeah.
Watch
Okay.
it.
Sorry, guys.
Fine.
My
Yeah,
father.
I'm really sorry, but everybody can go on and watch it. Every time we bring up something like this, it's very heartbreaking for Megan, and it's just really, really bad. So, you know, basically 5-day-old baby Esther. I mean, it even breaks my heart. I'm sorry, but it does. So basically, baby Esther was taken at that very moment without so much as a CPS home study even done, despite the claims that they've made here. They're saying that they were on 6/22, they were alerted, their department, that she had given birth. The mother did not tell her case manager that the child had been born. Rather, the mother was absent from mediation, claiming to be sick. Megan, is that true?
It's not true. We have the dates to even prove it. They also said that I had a home birth to hide my baby from them. They had known for months that I was pregnant. The judge yelled at me in court and threatened to jail me if I didn't tell him whether I was pregnant or not in front of 35 national court watchers. They sent CPS, my father's attorney and my daughter's father's attorney. It's the same attorney. That's not a conflict of interest. They called DCF and told them that I was pregnant and that I'd had the baby months ago. And DCF came through our neighborhood like the Gestapo, knocking on every neighbor's door, asking if they had seen a pregnant woman and looking for me when they knew where I was staying. The police helicopters had been all over the house. The night before that removal that we just saw of my baby daughter. Sorry, I can't even talk about it, but they actually were out the entire night before, the sheriff's department, shining the high beams on the house the entire night, switching cars in and out, so that the dog would bark. And, they have put us in terror and in retaliation. Also, after that day in the removal, they arrested the two supporters that I had, the woman's home that I was living in, where we had done the home study for the children to be able to come home. The case was almost done. I'd almost completed the case plan, like I've been doing all along, while still speaking out and showing up for my children and going under this harassment and these threats. With my children being dangled in front of me and weaponized, if I don't go along. They kept them out there the entire night, and they arrested the two that had supported me that we see on the longer version of that video, and charged them with felonies for getting involved in the removal of the baby, which they did not hinder the removal whatsoever. So we see the retaliation and just breaking down the support system and things like that. So it's been devastating.
So Megan, can you confirm that your three older children are with your parents, and where is baby Esther Grace right now?
My children were taken to the Finger Lakes with my parents. DCF said that there would be no difference, and they took them up there while they tried to adopt them in 2 weeks. My children begged
to come home every visit that we have. My daughter, has made very terrifying remarks, have joking about, I misbehave because I'm hoping if I'm bad enough that they'll send me home. Or I wish I could do things to grandma and grandpa so that I can just come home. Things like that. So it's just been a really hard thing with that. But then on top of it, they knew I was pregnant. They knew I was having a baby, and they instead decided to tell DCF that they did not want the baby. They were too busy on vacation or couldn't take a baby who actually needs the most care. And my daughter is in foster care in a foster home right now, where my father himself quotes that the majority of child trafficking comes from. So
Wow.
that's where we're at. We're terrified. My children have reported physical abuse from my parents, and CPS has done nothing about it. Everything is right in front of their face, and they still continue on this. And the sheriff.
Nick, don't you wonder if have any of the fathers seen any of the children since they've been taken from the home?
Yeah, I did want to make one point as to the sheriff, and my current judge also was with the sheriff's department for, I believe, 14 to 16 years before being a judge. And I'm sorry, what was that, Christy? I just want to make sure I didn't forget.
I just need to know, have any of the fathers seen the children at all? Or how are they visiting the children if the children have been taken out of the state of Florida?
Right. This is obviously for other reasons than concern for the children. It's pretty evident from my parents and from this father and from CPS and DCF and the sheriff, unfortunately. Ava's father has gone along with it, and they introduced her to her father without me there, without her mother, without support through a system. They allowed him, and that's what he chose to do. He chose that this is the way that he's going to come into his daughter's life and write this story for her for the rest of her life. And he is now taking her for overnights, but he's still allowing my parents to adopt her until they build a better relationship. I mean, his daughters are now, going off to college. So now he gets another, little girl that he claims he didn't even know about. It's very terrifying. His family, they have a reputation, and that's all I'm going to say. It's very concerning.
So Meghan, you're saying that the father is part of it, is part of the corruption.
He absolutely is.
Yeah, because if he hasn't seen his child, Nick, in 9 years, and then suddenly CPS is letting this little girl go and spend the night with the father, and they won't even let her own mother have her, not even one night per month to spend the night. Currently, you are having to do Zoom meetings with her. Is that correct?
Yeah, before they adopt him in 2 weeks.
Meghan, did you say you have any contact with the father?
No, I reached out to him when I first got served. I wanted to talk and say, you really don't understand what's been going on with my family, and we need to come together to protect our child if you want to get involved. He didn't respond to anything. He hasn't answered. He's participated in slandering me and making up scenarios for DCF so that, they can use it as main court.
Meghan, are you covering the microphone? Because your sound seems to be off a little bit. Christy, are you getting that? Are you getting the same?
Yes, I am. I'm having a hard time hearing her.
Sorry, is that better?
A little better, yes. Yes.
Is that a little better? Okay. So I didn't touch anything, but
Sure,
is that better?
That's much better, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
No worries. Christy,
So
I'll let you go forward, because I know you know the case quite well, and you know exactly how to pinpoint what the public needs to know for Meghan.
Thank you, Nick. I really appreciate that. Although I've just, come to really learn everything myself, through reading things. When Hollis was obtained as her counsel, So Megan, a couple things, that I want to make sure that get addressed are your nose, because that's been cited. The next citing alleging that you yourself are taking Rick Simpson oil rather than evidence-based medicine. When I did a little research on the Rick Simpson's oil, I could find plenty of studies where it actually worked for the type of cancer that you have on your nose. Because that's quite a myth going on online. And that was one of the first questions I even had for you. So I understand why the public would have the question. It's a fair question, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I actually love when people ask me, because then I can educate them about options that they might need in the future. I do have basal cell carcinoma on my nose. I did go have biopsies. I went to do everything that I needed to. I even went to specialists down south and to Miami and in between. They wanted to put my forehead on my nose and do all sorts of different wild things. And I was blessed to find out that there was this option to try of Rick Simpson oil, which has been around for a while. I have it through a prescription. This is a medical context, which they are also taking out of and putting into a substance abuse context. I've drug tested twice a week for over a year. I did substance evaluations with no recommendations from that, no issues found. I know that's been a thing too. But Rick Simpson oil is an option with studies, extensive research, and results in treating basal cell carcinoma, as well as other types of cancers that they are thoroughly researching for the American public. And it's an amazing option over chemicals and traditional Western ways of Mohs surgery and all of the options that I've extensively researched and even down to radiation, which my father did have on his face when he got cancer in the same place a year later. Again, my father and I have very different beliefs and approaches to life, as I found, and this happens to be one of them. But I hope people will go and look into Rick Simpson oil, because it's an amazing option.
So
I've rebuilt my nose, so go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, so, all of this writing that we're watching, the allegations against you, would you say, is it reasonable to assume that your dad, John Walsh, had a big role to play in writing this out?
This would be like a Hollywood script, for lack of a better, term right now. I literally read it, Nicholas, and it was a good thing I had to wear a mask in the trial, because I cannot believe that this is what people, to me, this shows mental illness. If people can come up with these things, twist this and do this to children, first and foremost, forget about me, that can do this to children and are absolutely not taking into account their perspective and what this is doing to them, especially because they know the truth. My daughters tried to speak up. Again, they begged to come home every single time, and they know the truth, and they're just waiting for everyone. We're all waiting for everyone else to come together and realize and stand up.
Well, I'm going to say the next line kind of says it all to me, Nicholas, because it's actually a great question of who is involved, because keep in mind, this is a legal document that we're reading for the court of law. And the next line kind of says it all. The mother continues to pepper social media with conspiracy theories surrounding the death of her brother and trafficking of her children. Okay, the word pepper, everybody just think about that one for a second, because I almost laughed out loud when I read that. I thought the word pepper, they're peppering. In other words, she's sprinkling around like pepper. This is in a court document. That just doesn't sound like something that normally would be in a court document, in my opinion. I'm no attorney. Hollis may be able to weigh in on that. But it's really about that. And by the way, there's been, ever since Adam's death, there have been hundreds of people to question the investigation of Meghan's brother's death. So I would think living in the shadows of a kidnapping and a murder when someone else has your children, I would say that you would definitely start looking into things more yourself and trying to figure out why this has happened to you, or at least I would
Well,
be.
and Christy, that was another thing, is that I had been looking into it prior to any of this happening. And that was another thing that really twisted the wrench, I guess, if you will. I thought that they would be proud. I thought that these are my parents. They grieve about my brother. I'm finally, 36, 37 years old. And, I'm interested. I love my brother. I've honored my brother my entire life. Our whole life has been, has surrounded, my brother and my parents' work and everything. That's what we had to live for and show up for and even have emotions or not for. So, I thought that they would really be proud of me. And I started asking them in a way like, did you know that this, was in this, or who was doing this at the time and things? And that's when a lot of trouble started to happen as well. And again, as Christy said, the point here is that my brother's case has been controversial for 40 years and by many people, even law enforcement that made reports in the very own case. So, that's the fact of the matter here.
And conveniently, most of the files are missing too, Nicholas. I'm going to add that too. So that makes it even more controversial. If there's nothing to see, why are the files missing?
I just can't get my head around how John Walsh, your father, Meghan, has no love or sympathy for you or your children or for his family. I just can't get my head around that.
I can't either, but he has not responded to me. This man grabs his chest in court and says, we love our daughter. He just ranted last week about how we just want her in therapy and we want her on medication and we'll give her kids back, which I think is very indicative of a barter or a deal or, nefarious, not to what this is supposed to be. And it's horrific. I don't understand. If you really think that I was mentally ill, okay, guys, where's the headline that John Walsh had to save his, grandchildren from his crazy daughter? And if you really think that I'm crazy and you love me so much, you don't take someone's children from them and their home and their entire life and retaliate and give them the silent treatment, which is abuse. They told CPS that this was tough love. That's abuse. That's not tough love. And CPS still, the John Walsh show. So the sheriff and my father have a very cult following in our county. People that aren't from there aren't aware of that either.
Christy, you want to go ahead?
Yes. I just wanted to make sure you didn't have any questions, Nicholas.
Thank you.
Basically, Meghan, they're saying that the present danger of the children, this is occurring in several different ways, that the vulnerable infant is unable to protect herself. Did they find any neglect with baby Esther when they came in? Because they didn't. The video that I watched and the one that Nicholas mentioned posting that we showed the clip of, I didn't see where they actually said, this is why we're taking your daughter.
No, they had a false report, which is supposed to be a 3rd-degree felony up to 5 years, saying that I had had the baby and I had not taken it to the doctor. I took the baby to the doctor the day before this happened. I had the baby 4 days prior to taking her to the doctor. And again, I had a home birth because that's how I have my children. I have had 2 others. 2 of my boys were born at home. So that's over 6 years of having babies at home. And also then they changed it to, no, it was, well, we're taking her anyways because we already have the other 3. So that's ultimately in the case and trial, what they're sticking with is that they took her because they already had the other 3. Well, then all of that was not necessary and that trauma was not necessary. You knew for months that I was pregnant and you could have come to me and said, this is what happens when the baby, and made that a peaceful process. They were also supposed to come the day before, 2 days before, to do a home study to complete the case. And they never showed up. And then all of a sudden they show up at, for all of this and, charge my supporters and create this whole scene. They had every first responder in town, helicopter, everything. And again, the night before, completely harassing us with the headlights. And We also got the body cam footage from outside from Officer Dilks, who has been a common name in all this. He's best friends with Eric Flowers, who is my dad's buddy. Again, we saw that earlier with endorsing. And they also used my father to get third-party monitoring on all the traffic cameras and asked the commission for more funding, even though our small town, the police department gets, I believe it's over $52 million budget a year. But Dilks is Michael Dilks, and he's actually known nationally for being a racist cop on TikTok, a TikTok star for being a racist cop. And he and Flowers are best friends, and we have the body cam footage of him going around the outside. You saw him on the video actually there when she goes to the outside cameras, and he's pacing back and forth. He's very jacked up. He's the one that did the April Fool's pullover with unmarked cars. He was in his street clothes with other deputies and the server to just give me a summons. And then was in my church after that. And now he showed up to this scene with Esther. And his footage shows him even going out to his car all jacked up and getting a battering ram out to take a 5-day-old baby.
That was really fast. So you're saying that this same group of law enforcement pulled you over in unmarked cars with your children?
Yes, that's how they started all this on April Fool's Day. They pulled me over outside of town by the farm where there aren't people really, and they had a work truck. I thought it was a workman because that's what is out there by the farm, a lot of work trucks in Florida with lights and different things. I pulled over, but I didn't stop all the way because I had my children with me and I wanted to be safe. So I pulled over, I looked behind me. It was a dark unmarked truck, and I noticed lights finally on the interior, and came to a full stop. The police officer comes up just in a sheriff vest and street clothes and says, "This is a traffic stop," and then tells me that I need to get out of the car, where then I started filming. And Dilks walks up because I said, "Why do I need to get out of the car? Your Honor, sir, my children are in the car with me. Please, what's going on here?" And so then I got out of the car and was filming, and that's where they served me. And all of them were in street clothes. I believe there were 3 or 4, maybe even, I don't even know the number of cars that were behind that truck that were unmarked as well, out in the middle of nowhere with my children in the car to serve me. And then, 2 weeks later or so, they come by to serve something else, and they come just to my house. It's an older service guy. One deputy, I told him what had happened or asked if he knew, and he was appalled. He had no idea about it and said he's the only one in the town that serves, that goes around and does the summons and services. So that's what that was about.
So that is very unusual for CPS in any way to serve you or petition you for a court proceeding by an unmarked car, right? So they never tried.
It was family court. It was for family court. So it wasn't CPS yet. It was family court. And that's extensive. I don't know how much that package is to do that, but no, I don't know. It's not normal. They could have just come to the house and given me the paperwork.
So what would happen if you had said, I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know who Meghan Walsh is.
They all say on the video how they don't know who I am. So
You could say you're a lookalike.
I don't know.
I know it sounds silly,
Nicholas,
but they have
I've never been in trouble with. I supported law enforcement my entire life. I love my parents. This is unfortunately things that happen when people are not mentally well, and there is abuse and narcissistic abuse. It's gotten way played out as a term in our society so that people chalk it off and, oh, he's a narcissist, or oh, that, this and that. But there are real issues and circumstances that people have to live through. And also our family court system and CPS enables narcissistic abuse extensively, very sadly. And the children are put through that. So I hear you.
I see. Christy,
So they basically go on to say that they clearly observed in-home and present danger. A safety plan was not feasible with the current family conditions. They claim that they eliminate the need to remove any minor children from the home, and accordance with Florida Statute 39-40210, which provides reasonable efforts of the department were as follows. And Megan, did they do any studies or provide you anything showing where there was present danger in the home and give you a time to rectify that?
No, they knocked that morning. I was advised by counsel, which is the one thing that I would have done differently. I understand that in this, I am, again, not perfect, and this was terrifying. I had no idea that any of this was happening, and I didn't answer the door that morning. I thought they would leave a card, I would call. I was with my children in the back, as even the records when they took the children state that they were bathed and fed and healthy and no signs of abuse. And then automatically I was called for a hearing. They never came in the home. They falsified. One of the detectives on the report said that a home study was done because he smelled cat pee coming from the garage while he was standing in the driveway in Florida in April. So go figure. And yeah, there was, and the main thing here is that there was no 39-303 investigation required by law, 60-day investigation. Whatsoever. I was never able to this day to present, evidence and anything against each of the allegations, which I could, and even through a trial.
Yeah, and I don't want to waste everybody's time. Everybody should just read this. The parent or legal guardian is not willing to do an in-home safety plan. That's not true, right, Megan?
No, not at all. And even on the video with Esther, you hear me saying that I'm more than happy to work with them. I've done everything on the case plan that I could, or that was legitimate.
The home environment is not calm or consistent enough for an in-home safety plan to be implemented. Safety services are not available as a sufficient level to the degree necessary in order to manage which impeding dangers infesting in the home. Megan, have you received anything where Esther Grace is currently located, where she is? Have you received their home safety plan?
No, I haven't. I was promised that I would receive pictures and I would get a call that night. I did not, of course, get any of that. You don't hear from CPS at all once they have the baby in their hands. I have not received any reports. She was also supposed to go for weekly weigh-ins at her doctor so that I could have my doctor see her eyes and ears and for the safety of my child. And they have not done one of those at all. And even the foster mother is very upset with what's going on, and due to the fact that she has received nothing. No, they have not even given her formula or diapers. I am bringing everything for my baby, which they get funding to do, and they have not called her to check on Esther. They've done nothing.
Sibling placement. They say that a home is not available to place the siblings together. The department has made following reasonable efforts to keep the children together. The caregivers of the siblings was asked about placement of the infant and declined. So that would be your parents.
That would be John Walsh, the child crusader.
Okay. Sibling visitation. Ongoing visitation between siblings is recommended as follows: no less than one time per week upon the siblings' return from summer vacations out of state.
Hasn't happened once, and they have me lying to my children on every Zoom that when they ask almost the entire time in the beginning, they ask all about Esther, all about the baby. I've asked them many times, how can we do this to make it normal for my children? How can they meet Esther? Can I be there when my children meet each other? And nothing has been done. They've changed out the caseworkers, and everything just keeps getting more in the air by doing that.
So the department and its contracted providers request authorization to obtain routine medical services for the children as needed to obtain records and information so that comprehensive behavioral health assessment may be conducted. And it looks like the children are in need of, and the Department of Families request the appointment of guardian and adlitment program, the financial support. The Department of Family and Children, the Department of Children and Families request that the parents or custodians, if able, be ordered to pay fees for the care, support, and maintenance of the children established by the department. Okay, so that means you're going to have to now pay for care for your own children. It sounds like, I don't know if that's really the case. Is that right? Did I read that correctly?
Welcome to the system. I hope people go and educate themselves on what our system is doing to families and children, how they do it, because it's right in front of you being shown through this case. I don't know what else to say to that, Christy. I'm sorry.
The court is requested to order the parents to provide the department or its contracted provider with financial information to access child support within 28 days after the entry of the shelter order. So I imagine that's probably how they're going to try to get you next, is by paying child support for your children.
Well, I rebuke and bind that in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, because we're not going to speak that into existence, and we're going to get my children back with the truth. So if this is just going to be like kind of the stuff on the records that, these logistical things, then I encourage people, I don't think we should waste time with that. If we want to address my allegations or things, I'm not skirting that. But if this is, regular system stuff, then I encourage people to look into our system and how this goes, because it's textbook.
Yeah, because in Florida, the law is quite different, in terms of how things are going. And Nicholas, I think that's we've gone through the majority of the things that we had. So if they, in terms of what will actually happen, do you have any other questions?
All I can say is that you've done a great presentation, Christy and Meghan. It's absolutely terrible with what's gone on. I would like to do another interview where in the future, where Meghan is ready to do so, where we can do an update. I'm absolutely so absorbed into this information that you've provided to them. It's so overwhelming, and especially with Meghan's parents, on how they have a lack of empathy and love towards their own family. It's just shocking. And all I can say is I'm very sensitive to your pain, Meghan. I don't know what else to say. The only thing we can do is expose this as much as we can. The viewers, if they could share this video. And also, we'll leave the link below. If you could support Meghan and donate anything you can to her, that would help her with her case. And obviously with anything else that you need help with, Meghan, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the viewers before we finish?
Nicholas, I couldn't do this without the viewers and without people like you, without people like Christy and even Hollis, coming forward. I mean, this is truly incredible, and I'm very thankful for that. And, the other side of that is that unfortunately in this world, it does take money to get things done, and in this system it takes money to get your children back. So the supporters have really truly kept me going while I speak out and while I fight for my children, and we really appreciate that. And we continue to need funding, especially for the legal team now, and to be able to get the experts and really show the truth of the matter here, and hopefully be able to help others moving forward.
Christy, is there anything that you would like to say?
Yeah, I would like to encourage everyone to, even if you can, give a cup of coffee, Meghan's Give, Send, Go, or if you have a larger donation, to make it directly to Hollis via the Zelle, or send a check to Hollis's office, because that way, believe it or not, every 3 or 4% will matter. But just showing some amount of support, Nicholas, I mean, we can't thank you enough for helping get the word out for the time that you've allowed. I know this is much over what your typical shows are like, but I want you to know how grateful we are and for your responsiveness. And we'll, promise to keep your audience posted because of how great you are with the breaking news, because it is quite, it's quite a lot, for Meghan to have to go through this. Some people might ask, can she get a job? I mean, you got to think they're sending her to court, and the schedule is so demanding that I'm trying to help her just by booking shows like this in between the schedule that they have offered. If you were to see it, I don't even think people would believe it. Because they want to make sure that they can't support her. And the one thing that I want everybody to know is, when I asked Meghan, hey, if I help you, will you turn around and help others after this is done? I know she's already helped others prior, but she has a big voice in this, and there's a lot of people that are regular people like you and I. And Nicholas, I didn't even know you were going to give me the opportunity to speak today. I mean, I had the presentation ready because I wanted for anyone out there to be able to utilize the content, the information that we've taken the time to gather, because it is quite trying. And I want people to understand that if they will just show a little support to Meghan's Give Send Go, number one, that encourages Meghan. She's managed to live and pay some of the attorney's fees by selling things like her cars. Her boyfriend has sold his car. I mean, there's so many things that have happened in this in order for it to happen. But people may look at and think, well, attorneys are too expensive. It looks, unpromising, but that's not the truth. It is actually very promising at this point in time. And I do believe that we're getting ready to crack on something possibly bigger than we've ever seen before. And considering the amount of vast things that we've seen this past year, I think this could be the break of something like larger worldwide, that maybe that is what's, that's the reason they're trying to beat Meghan down. If you just go and even try to do a search for Meghan Walsh, you'll see that they try to push her name down at every point they get. So I do encourage everybody to share your video, Nicholas, and really thank you very much.
Thank you. And Hollis, I know you've been quiet, and I know you've been in the background listening. I know you are the lawyer. Is there anything that you would like to add before we finish?
No, not at this time. I think that when you have Meghan come back, that would be a more appropriate time for me to weigh in.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for everyone sharing that with us. It's heartbreaking, but we're going to get, to the other side, as fast as we can. And I would like for everyone to help to donate to Meghan and share this video. We need to spread awareness, think of the children, and let's get these monsters out of the way and get ready to create this new earth. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nicholas. God bless.